One of my lines in my books is, your energy enters a room before you do, and your legacy is left behind. Anyone that is looking to evolve personally and professionally, once they start to absorb that into their lifestyle, they can recognize how their posture is, how their breath is either panting or they're nervous or their shoulders. So all of that nonverbal communication starts to come off as they enter a room, and they start to recognize it, including recognizing it in others.
Today, we're so excited to welcome Elizabeth Barry to the Modern Therapy Podcast. Elizabeth is a transformational coach, speaker, author, and the founder of the Kind Communicator. With over 20 years of experience working with executives, students, and teams, Elizabeth's work centers on conscious communication, emotional intelligence, and calm leadership rooted in presence. She's spoken on TEDx stages, authored 9 books, with the 10th on the way, and created the Beyond Ego framework, which helps people stay grounded and confident under pressure. Today, we're diving into body language and nonverbal communication, not as a way to read or control others, but as a way to build emotional safety, reduce misunderstanding, and communicate with more kindness and clarity. We are here today with Elizabeth, and we're super excited to have this conversation on nonverbal communication. Mm-hmm. Elizabeth is an expert on communication in general of all types, but today we're going to specifically talk about some nonverbal communication. So we'd love to just jump in and have you introduce yourself and kind of talk about your background and what brought you here.
Thank you. I am Elizabeth Barry. I'm known as the Kind Communicator. I've built a brand based on taking leaders beyond ego and into consciousness, and a part of that is verbal and nonverbal communication, including energy, learning how our energy enters a room before we do. And that is really important. It comes out in many of my books, and I'm looking forward to this conversation to dive in.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the energy that people give off when they walk in a room? Do most people know the type of energy they give off, or is that kind of a starting point for you with them?
I think that it comes in sessions. If I'm in a coaching session or if I'm giving a talk, I can explain that. One of my lines in my books is, your energy enters a room before you do, and your legacy is left behind. And anyone who is a mom or a leader or a teacher or anyone that is looking to evolve personally and professionally, once they start to absorb that into their lifestyle, they can recognize how their posture is, how their breath is either panting or they're nervous or their shoulders. So all of that nonverbal communication starts to come off as they enter a room, and they start to recognize it, including recognizing it in others.
Yeah. It's, the nonverbal part of communication, our body language, things like it's more than 50% of communication. Mm-hmm. So it's so important. And I think a lot of times it's not super focused on for people that want to become better communicators. Do you think that's a good starting point?
Yes, look up Morabian's theory. He talks about that. Body language and tone are higher up on that chart rather than words. Words are 7%. So I typically talk about Morabian's theory because we focus so much on the words we're going to say. We end up tripping over ourselves to try to find that perfect phrase in a presentation, when in actuality, it's all about our tone and how we address people, as well as the body language, eye contact, shoulders, and of course our breath.
Yeah. So what are some of the types of things you're seeing from people when they want to maybe be perceived a certain way? Like, let's say they want to go in a room and they're like, I want people to really respect me. What are some of the things they can do with their nonverbal communication to get that result?
Okay. So first and foremost is how they enter a room. Right? If we're coming in with closed shoulders, that's a sign of insecurity. If you're coming in and you have your shoulders back and down, for me, as a yoga teacher, I have my 500-hour teaching certificate, yoga anatomy, chakra healing, mudra, all of that. I've gone through the training. And that's one of the things that I love to provide in a coaching session, especially for leaders who are in HR, who are in those high-ranking positions, managers, CEOs, VPs, because they're in that alpha mode. Whether it's a woman or a male, they want to come in and they want to get the performance and they want to get the results. And they often don't recognize that their body language is so worried about that presentation or about that proposal. And what we do is we give them breath work, and they understand how their breath leads them into the room. So the first thing is the shoulders. Most importantly is the breath, eye contact. If someone wants to be respected, eye contact is huge. And we were just talking before the podcast started about millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha being on a digital device their entire life. It's very, very difficult to have that eye contact because it's uncomfortable for many of them.
Yeah.
And there is a rule, if I feel uncomfortable looking at you in the eyes, there's a triangle theory where if you could just look right in the middle here, it takes away that the sweaty underarms or the nervous heart race where I look into your eyes because I'm not used to doing it because I'm used to looking at a digital device.
Right. That's so true, because when you're not used to looking in someone's eye, like, it can feel really uncomfortable.
It can, and it's a practice that you have to build, and it's like, where's the line? Because a little bit too much eye contact can be intimidating or like come off as like a little weird or creepy
to the unevolved person and to the person that has not had that training.
Yeah.
I often in my yoga sessions or in my book workshops or in my corporate trainings are great. One of the exercises that I like to give is I'll put the two people together.
Yeah.
And they look into each other's eyes. And I give them 1 minute. And it seems like a short period of time, 60 seconds. 1 minute is rather long. And people do get uncomfortable. They start to fidget. And then once that minute settles in, they start to feel so grounded and connected. Sometimes people cry. Sometimes people start to giggle, and then they start to really settle in. If you go even longer, maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes, you can really start to peel away the layers of, again, what I share in my brands, Beyond Ego, how to get through that hard ego that tries to keep us down and separated, which is an illusion, into that conscious and authentic nature, which is always begging to come out.
Yeah.
The eyes are windows to the soul.
They
right?
are.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think we all crave that authentic connection, but there is such a level of uncomfortability with it if you're not used to it.
Yes.
Yeah, it can feel very uncomfortable, and it can feel unnatural, because maybe for some people it is unnatural even though it should be natural.
If someone does feel uncomfortable with eye contact or proximity or even sharing, right? Sharing more of ourselves, which might not be verbal communication. It might be, I want to feel comfortable like I am in my home or in my room or in my kitchen with my cat. But when I get in front of people, I tense up. And typically, and you know this as a therapist, 80% of the brain's messages come from the body. So if we are rigid and our shoulders are up, again, secondarily, we all have mirror neurons. If I'm rigid, you're going to see me and you're going to feel rigid too. But if I learn to come into that authenticity and that comfortability with myself, then I am able to open up. And if I'm open, you can be open. And what a beautiful thing, how we can use the brain's mirror neurons to better ourselves, to be more comfortable.
Where does that tensity and that rigidness come from, do you think?
Well, it could come from ego, which isn't the egotistical version that society uses. I've studied ego. I've built a brand based on ego, which states that life begins where ego ends. And ego is the duality inside of us. So there's I love using the dichotomy and the dualities inside of us because they live inside of us and they'll never leave. We'll never lose our ego. And as Wayne Dyer said, it's edging God out, EGO. You edge God, universe, spirit out. It's a separation. But once we learn to be comfortable with the uncomfortability, once we learn that the ego won't leave, we learn to manage it. And it's owning that vulnerability, owning that part of ourselves, that darkness, that insecurity, that worry, that guilt, and recognize that it's not ours to carry. That's when we can start to play with, and I use the word play freely because humans deserve more play in their life to enter that flow state. We start to understand, does anything really matter as much as we emphasize it? And if we learn to play with that, that's when the authenticity comes out. And if anyone is struggling with that rigidity, the first thing I would say is get some breathwork lessons. Come to me, come to someone in your yoga community and learn what it means to breathe, because I can talk about breathwork. And I've recently been asked by a client, what does breath work actually mean? So some of us that are using the phrase breath work, we've got to dial that back a little bit to tell people how to actually breathe. And we'll do a few today in our interview, and your listeners and those that are watching can really understand that all we need is a few deep breaths, and we can actually overcome a lot of the things that are living inside of our head that can come out inside of our heart.
Yeah, because I think it makes you so much more aware of your body, of the space that you're taking up. It kind of gets you out of that thinking brain, even if it's just for a couple of seconds.
Yes. And the way that you would guide yourself into breathing is when you take a deep breath in, you round the belly like Santa or Buddha, and when you take a deep breath out, you bring the belly to the spine. So it's interesting starting to use the body's ontology and to start to use that physicality with your breath. You're actually using the lungs and the lung capacity to your benefit, using that diaphragm that wants to contract and open up and come back together, so that your body is actually getting comfortable with the deeper breathing rather than the panting that we get when we're worried or nervous or insecure.
What your body might be used to.
Yes. Sympathetic versus parasympathetic.
It's amazing how just like taking one deep breath can just totally like calm yourself.
Yes.
It's a built-in tool that everybody has.
Yeah.
Everybody has it, and I'd love to go deeper into this. There are 4 parts to breath. There's the inhale. There's an added pause, if you wish, if you can, and you can because you're strong. And then your exhale. And then there's the transition. So we're constantly transitioning. We take 20,000 breaths per day.
Wow, 20,000.
Make it count. And when you start to understand there's 4 parts to that breath, we can recognize when we're in that panting mode. If you do it now, you're going into that sympathetic, and that's, you saw my shoulders rise naturally, right? So each and every breath can include a transition for you to become calmer and more conscious of how you show up, how you lead, and how happier and healthier your life can be.
Yeah, and I love how you mentioned before about sitting with the uncomfortability, like knowing it's okay for that to still be a part of you. It's kind of similar to what we talk about in therapy. Sometimes people will come and say, I never want to have any drama with my family again, or I never want to experience anxiety again. And I'm like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but like I can't eliminate anxiety 100% from your life. But we can learn to sit with it. We can reduce it. We can find coping skills. But you're never going to be in a situation where you're just never going to be anxious again. That's just not going to happen. And the faster you can accept that, I think the better working on it becomes.
Yes, there's a line in one of my books, Lead by Example. The circumstances of your life do not define you. Your behavior does. Yeah. And if you think about the anxiety that you're holding, what do you need? When you say, I never want to do this, it's a calling for something that is actually needed, because you have the chance to either open the door with people or close the door with people. So take a plant, for instance. A plant that is wilted and shrugged shoulders, it's not breathing, it needs sunlight, it needs to be repotted, it needs to grow, it needs some water, it needs that osmosis. But a plant that is healthy and free is surrendering. Its branches are reaching out to the sky. You can tell the difference. And we as people, I often use nature in all of my work and in my books and my philosophies as a metaphor for who we are, because we are all very connected. So again, if you're someone that's saying, I never want this, I don't want to fight anymore, you're closing the door. And if you start to listen to your language more often, you fly above yourself, start to listen to what you're saying, you're actually calling for a chance for something that you need. And maybe you need a breath. Maybe you need to open that heart and open the shoulders a little bit and really sit with that uncomfortability to manage it and love it rather than try to close the door on it.
Yeah, I love that analogy, of a plant. Our plants generally look terrible.
Yeah, I can very easily picture that.
But it's so funny that
We try.
when we we try. When we put that effort into giving the plants water, and I feel bad for the plants because
They do better at least.
They're taken through this
They're not
vicious
thriving.
cycle.
Yeah.
Of,
I'm sure your plants are thriving.
Well, I actually have over 50 plants in my apartment.
I knew it.
yeah.
And they've taught me a lot, though. They've taught me a lot about self-awareness, too. I have spider plants. I recently started with spider plants maybe 2 years ago.
I love spider plants.
Yeah, they're so great. I have cats, so I have to get the specific plants. I have cactus, spider plants, and palm plants. And the self-awareness, right? Humans and self-awareness and plants. I kept walking by the spider plants, and they had the brown leaves and they had the babies coming out, and I didn't recognize that you needed to pluck them, and they were just overgrown. And again, this is why management of and owning ego, the illusion of separation, that lack of self-awareness is something that's consistently evolving in all of us.
Yeah.
We could be at our top level. We can understand that there is no ceiling to learning. There's so much more. We are lifelong learners, but we could walk by our own plants and recognize, oh, it's been a year and I haven't seen this. I'm going to take care of you. And then when you actually take the action to change it and you see how beautiful the growth becomes, what can you do with yourself? What are you not looking at in the mirror? How there's something about and it's Jung. I study a lot of Alan Watts. In the last 5 years, I've studied a lot of quantum physics, Alan Watts, Bashar, Dolores Cannon. I've gone deeper and deeper into energy work, and there's with Carl Jung, they talk about looking in the mirror, the 5-minute rule, 15-minute rule. Prior to going out, especially for people in their second half of life. Sometimes they think it's easier to just roll out of bed, especially in today's world too. You go to the airport, you go to the grocery store, everyone's kind of in their whatever they call those, the Crocs and sweatpants, and how we present ourselves, that's our nonverbal communication too. And we get taken more seriously. You mentioned the word respect earlier. Can we look at that plants analogy and say, if I take 5 more seconds to look at myself before I leave the house, before I go to an interview, before I go on Zoom with my teams, what is it that I can learn about how I'm presenting who I am and my authenticity a little bit better, and how much better is that going to make me feel and the person on the other end feel?
Yeah, and the key there is, I think the key there is how much better is it going to make me feel, right?
Yes,
because
100%.
even more so than how others perceive it, because when you feel good, you're projecting that.
You're giving that energy off then, and then other people know it, and that's where like that confidence, or even just feel like, oh, this person is really kind because they walked in the room and they're smiling, when really it could have nothing to do with the other person. It's probably mostly what am I thinking about myself, because that's the kind of creatures we are. We think about ourselves a lot.
Yes.
This is something that I have a natural deficit because I have a resting bee face.
Okay.
So I have to be super aware of it when I go out to places. And, it's like we've been to events, and like there was one wedding in particular, which I'll remember it was the specific time where I became aware that this is
My friends
a
will
huge problem.
never let him live it down.
So I had a candid photo taken of me. I think we were like dancing or something.
And I'm like so in the moment. My eyes are closed. I'm smiling. And I'm thinking like, obviously he is too. Like we were newly married. We're like having this moment. Well, the photographer takes the picture and Brandon's like this, staring into space. And I'm like, so my friends for like years, every couple months would just send that photo to the group text and just cry. They thought it was the funniest thing because they know him.
It was a funny photo.
Obviously, that he's deeper than he looks in that photo. But
so after that happened, I was like, oh man, like this is a problem. Like those other people like think that I'm having a bad time, like, and that's not the case.
But what's
like,
so funny is I kept telling him, you kind of have a resting bee face. You kind of have, and you didn't believe me until you saw the photo.
Or maybe, I knew, I've always known, but like, I just don't, you don't think of the consequences of how that shows up. And that's a funny example, but like, how many situations have I been in where that has caused someone else to feel maybe at work, maybe at, and that things that I never even know about, so I fixed it. And, you can share the story.
So now whenever he goes to weddings, he's always so like, okay, there's gonna be photographers. I need to, it takes more work for him to put a smile on his face. And it's not because you're not happy. It's just naturally, we discovered he actually, like, your lines kind of naturally go down a little bit when you're resting.
My mouth just
which
has
makes
a
you
natural
look upset
drop.
when you're not upset.
Yeah.
So we were at another friend's wedding and we get the seat right next to the aisle. And he's like, okay, I'm on it. I'm smiling this whole time. And you truly were happy. You love this couple. And so they get their pictures back. And I get a text from my friend. Oh my gosh, look at this picture of us coming down the aisle and look at Brandon's face.
Beaming.
He's so happy for us. And he's beaming. And I'm like, finally, your outward expression matches how you feel. But you know that takes a little more effort for you because it doesn't come like naturally to you.
But, if you think about like, okay, it's their wedding day. It's a special event for them. Like they want the people that are attending to be having a good time. And, so her seeing that, the difference in how she felt compared to if I had like a big frown on or something like that. It's a big deal. It changes the whole message.
Yeah.
There's the science to it. That's why they bring a lot of the pretty people up at concerts. That's why they bring all the super fans up. Hey, we're going to fill the front row with all the people in the front that have the excitement and the exuberance rather than the people that will sit there. Yeah. Now, the cool part about that, in my book, Design Your Mind to Be Kind, it talks about breathing and smiling. Breathe and smile. And smiling is actually, it lights up the reward center in the brain. So when you smile, it actually tells the brain, oh, this person is happy, they're in a good mood. So that reward center equates to receiving $30,000 or eating dark chocolate, which we all love to do. Many of us love to do, right? So again, going back to someone who is anxious or worried or carrying guilt or fear or insecurity, when you take a moment to breathe and you smile, you're lighting up that reward center in the brain, and then the mirror neurons can tell the person in front of you, hey, they're having a good time, and they can have a good time too. That also goes for presenters. If you're nervous for presenting, if you smile, the audience will smile. If you come out there like this, they're going to be nervous for you and with you.
Yeah, and then you're going to see that.
And the other thing that we were talking about with energy, your energy enters the room before you do. Your legacy is left behind. We are more energy than we are matter. And when you start to understand the inside of your body, which I love to teach now in my coaching sessions, you recognize that what you feel, you project. And if you are having an insecurity or if you have a worry about something, those first 3 chakras are the ones that look outward. So your root, your solar plexus, and your sacral are the ones that look outward. That's where your grounding, your emotional energy, and your confidence are based on how other people perceive you.
That makes so much sense.
Once you get to the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown, that's when you can start to look inwards. So we want to engage with our energy and start to learn about the energy centers in the body, because it doesn't lie, and we are more energy than matter. We're 70% water. We can have a choice to be resilient or resistance. We can choose to flow, or we can choose to be that dam. Yeah. And again, when we start to understand more of what's happening on the inside of us using our breath, parasympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, or that's sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, or parasympathetic, rest and digest. Taking that hum on the exhale, coming into that vagus nerve, we can learn that our bodies can tell us so much more about who we wish to be.
Yeah. Now, how about the other side of that? People who misinterpret body language. So someone maybe is sitting across from them smiling, but they have social anxiety, and they're always thinking, this person hates me, they don't want to be here. They're thinking all these things, which could not even be true. How do you work with someone who has a hard time understanding cues? Maybe because of something they've been through, like a trauma.
Yes. Well, everyone has a comeback story. I've been through trauma. I've lived through PTSD. I understand that. So I recognize that when you are carrying something that's very heavy, it's your lens, it's your perspective. And if you can recognize that you're the one wearing the glasses, we all have a chance to have that comeback story. Again, the circumstances of your life do not define you. Your behavior does. And if you're consistently working on yourself, that means you're alive. You have your breath, you have your hands, you have your eyesight, your taste buds, your sense of smell, your chance to love. All of this is a gift that we have every single day. So anyone that has a hard time interpreting that because they're carrying that weight, my darlings, it is not yours to carry. Your shoulders are going to be the biggest component for that, and your breath is as well. So if you're carrying a lot, you're coming in, you're using buts, it is what it is, you have your folded arms, and you're projecting that, or you think that someone else is projecting that, that's a chance to go further and further and further in tune with the layers that you have up, which is that ego. You're putting your protective shell up because you want to defend or protect, but that's ego at work. And if you want to be more authentic, you've got to peel back some of those layers.
So let's talk about authenticity a little bit. You know, what are some ways people can become more authentic or project more authenticity?
Well, the easiest way to do it is to learn how to breathe. And I can give you 2 breathwork examples if you want.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Just making it so much easier, because I can give you the hard stuff, but if you don't have the breath with it, it might be a little bit more difficult. So how's 2 breathwork? So I'll do it first, and then we could do it together.
Cool.
We'll do 2 each. The first one is called the Breathwork Symphony. It's in silent integrity, and it uses that pause and the transition. So we'll inhale for 4, hold for 3, exhale for 7 with the mouth closed, and then we'll hold for 3 again. That's a transition, so we'll practice that together. Take an inhale through the nose for 4, holds for 3 because you can engage the core, exhale for 7 with the mouth closed, Ujjayi breath, hold for 3 on the bottom, and if you repeat that 3 times, you're coming into yourself. That's the Breathwork Symphony. It teaches you that there's a hold, and each and every hold is actually a release. So there's a beautiful dichotomy there.
I love when you're doing it, you're like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
But when you're like, because you can.
Yes.
Like, I love that little part in there. And I'm like, yes, I can.
Yes. That was my yoga cue when I teach yoga.
Yes.
Anyone has to work with the core because you can, and you're strong.
Because you can. I'm going to start using that line. That's so empowering.
Use it, please. Keep the ripple effect going.
Yes.
The second one is opening up the heart chakra. So what most people don't know, to get into that authenticity, the heart has 2 sides. The front is for giving, and the back is for receiving. So if we're looking to be more authentic and more conscious, are we giving too much, and is our back too closed for receiving? Especially mothers, nurturers, people, CEOs, VPs, we're giving, but we forget that we too can receive. And how much better can we perform at work? How much better can we perform at home with our children, our lovers, our parents, our families, our communities, when we're breathing with an open back and open back chakra? So this one is, I'm actually gonna, whenever you breathe, I always say that it's best that you don't cross your legs. So I'm just gonna uncross my legs to be professional about it. But the next one, I'll do it first, and then we'll do it together. It's opening up that heart chakra. So we'll take an inhale here, and as I inhale, this is where we clench the shoulders for a good reason, and we bring the shoulder blades back. And as we let go, we exhale. We can open the mouth this time. Bring the shoulders down. So let's do that together. Take an inhale through the nose. Rise the shoulders, clench the back of the shoulder blades, lift the heart, lift the chest. Exhale, bring it back to neutral. And if you do that just a few times, you're opening up the back muscles, which opens up the back of the heart chakra, and you're therefore in a mode of receiving. And when you're in receiving mode, that's when anything from the separation starts to dissolve. So that's when ego starts to subside, and anyone inside of you, that little 7-year-old girl or boy that didn't get what they want or was told something in that younger age, that starts to lessen, and you start to listen to who you are more. And that's where authenticity can start to show up in your body language, in the words that you choose, right? The other thing I would say for someone who's looking to be more authentic is to get more curious. And when I say curiosity, I've curated 17 TEDx events, and I've hosted multiple events with people from all over the world. And what I loved most about that is that I can bring so many different types of people together, and they can be in a room together thriving, and you can have the smartest, the most creative, the painter, different ages, different cultures, and they all grasp. Why? Because they're curious and their minds are open. So if you want to be more authentic, tap into your curiosity. Think with the Socratic method. Tap into Socratic thinking. Get those really nice questions, because if we show up and we think we know it all, my darlings, that's where your ceiling is hitting you. So think about a child. You have 2 toddlers. They enter the world, they fall down, they're okay. They're going to get back up. Adults, they were so scared of messing up. The kid has all the food on chocolate all over. Did you eat chocolate? No. Yes, they did. They got into the chocolate. So think about the curiosity a child has and the vulnerability that they have, and try to tap into that, because when we keep our childlike nature throughout our entire lives, we recognize that everything is already on its way, and nothing really has to matter as much as we think it does. And that's when our authenticity truly shines.
That's huge. And for some reason, as adults, we kind of shut that curiosity part of our brain off so often, or we think that we're supposed to. And Brandon will laugh because he's always like, you're like a child sometimes with the questions you ask, because I'll just ask the most random questions, but I'm like, I don't know, I'm just curious about it. Like, but it is something that I think you are kind of taught to turn off as you get older.
We're taught to perform.
Yeah.
In school, they close you off in the box, no sunlight. They let you out to play in the yard, and then they bring you back in. There's a bell there. Everything is closed off. You go into work, there's a performance review. Sometimes the managers aren't the best managers. Sometimes the managers are under so much pressure that they don't know how to manage people, and they're really good and they get promoted at their job because they're really good at checking off all the hard skills. But the soft skills aren't there. So that performance starts to melt into turning the curiosity and the childlike persona off. And when I come into office spaces, I have a coloring book here. I typically like to make people color, meaning engaging them to color. And the first thing that comes from a manager or a team is, I can't draw. And I look at that person and I know, you just hit a $2 million budget last month, and you're telling me that you can't draw? That you're worried about a stick figure when you just overcame your goals? Let's think about that. And what happens through that process when I put people in groups with I have spirit animals in the coloring book, and I put them in groups, and someone has to color and another person has to brief, and then they present. Why is the spirit animal of the frog the spirit animal for our company? And the whole room is buzzing. So it's like bringing back that childlike nature, even if just for a few hours with adults, allows them to recognize how much they're saying, oh, I can't, this is hard. Is it really, or is that your ego using your language to prevent you from having fun?
100%. And for feeling, oh, if I put this out there, are people going to judge me for it? It's kind of having that perception of like, I don't want people to see me in a vulnerable position because I don't know how to do this. But I love that you said before, if you go in thinking, okay, I know everything, or I'm not open to doing anything new, you hit that ceiling. And we see that in therapy all the time. The clients who do the best are the ones who come in and they're like, I'm just open. I don't know exactly what I need, but I know that I want to put the work in and I want to feel better. And we're always like, you are going to feel better. Like if that is your mindset, you are going to feel better. We can almost guarantee that for you.
There's a line in Silent Integrity where I say, see through the soul instead of the eyes that judge. And there's a metaphysical climb through the body, and that's where I talk about the energy centers and the chakras, and I create mudras and mantras, because personal development is hard. Owning our stuff is really, really difficult. It's hard to face what we're not good at or what we're making mistakes at. And no matter what level we are at, it becomes difficult, but it can become fun. That's why I draw spirit animals in the book, and I create those mantras and ask people to do a mudra to understand that, hey, the body is our temple. And if I know that the brain's messages are coming from the body and my body is sitting like this, then I've got to learn how to represent who I am through the breath and the body so that my brain can show up as the real me, as the authentic me, who is unafraid and unembarrassed. And it takes a while to get there. It took me a long time to get where I am today, and I have eons to go. And one of the most empowering things, and I'm sure for the both of you, is that when I have success with clients and when they call me. I'm calling it the Kind Communicator method now. I just got a call from a friend the other night, and she's like, I have to talk to you on the phone. I was the Kind Communicator today. Aww. And everyone, even my clients, will say, you're so proud of me. I was the Kind Communicator today. And it wasn't about being kind. Yeah. It was about speaking up and speaking their truth, speaking boldly, directly, kindly, thoughtfully, and respectfully. Because sometimes we are put in a position where the conversation's going to be difficult. Asking for the raise. Asking, I had a friend the other day call me and say, well, my child's haircut, they had this whole list of what they were supposed to get, and it was his first time going to a salon, and they didn't give him those things. And she called, and she was so proud of herself. She's like, I stood up for my son, and they gave him the whole kit and caboodle next time. But no matter who we are, no matter how old we are, there are going to be walls that we face, and we have a choice to, again, open the door or close the door on our own happiness before thinking about anyone else.
I love how this conversation has turned from like communicating with others to communicating with yourself, right?
Yes.
And like how you do that. You know, what's the process of interacting with yourself? And, you know, that's a huge part of communication.
Know thyself, right? That was Aristotle. And I sent an email to a colleague this morning. There's a breathwork session that I did, and I always give homework with sessions. And one of the pieces of the homework was based on Carl Jung, and he said if you learn to bring the unconscious to the conscious part of yourself, that's when you start to reflect. And the homework was simply looking in the mirror, which is very difficult to do. I said choose the best mirror in the house.
Right.
And for 2 minutes, simply look into your own eyes in the mirror, which is so difficult to do. Going back to that eye contact exercise that I gave in the beginning, that's when we start to know ourselves. And it starts with us at home, in the most vulnerable, comfortable place. And then when we start to go out into the world, we're reflecting the self-work that we've done already at home or with an expert like yourself. And we get to, again, open that door, be the plant that surrenders, and get into that receiving mode, because being in receiving mode is the gratefulness, it's the gratitude. And when you wake up and when you put your head on the pillow at night with that gratitude, it's a great lifestyle. It takes a while to get there, but it's a great lifestyle.
It's huge. It's really helpful for people who find themselves in a pattern of complaining, when you can stop and think, okay, what am I grateful for in this moment? And am I complaining for the sake of complaining, or am I complaining because it's a means to an end? Like, I have to say this is happening because I need a solution to it. But that gratitude piece is just so, so helpful.
Yeah, these habits that we default to can be dangerous, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Complaining, you know, it's like as humans, we're wired to just kind of like get comfortable in patterns.
Yes.
And I think like one of the most powerful things we can do is just like look at those patterns and then try to break them.
Yeah.
Yes, and with the pattern of complaining, look at Dr. Emoto and his water experiment, where he had students freeze water, and they spoke to different water bottles.
It blows my mind.
Yeah, so you're speaking to the
this.
waters with negativity,
negativity.
and it came out as the ugliest crystals, and then you speak to the water with love, and it became beautiful crystals. We are 70% water. So again, that talks to us about the power of water itself. Water is sharp enough to cut through mountain and stone over years. Think about that. If your words are cutting through people, including yourself, because you're complaining habits, that leaves a mark.
Yeah.
But if you're flowing like water, instead of being the dam or cutting through, you're allowing yourself, I'm getting goosebumps, you're allowing yourself to feel the levity that we're all gifted and have the chance to do with that gratitude.
It's beautiful, yeah. Cassie did have a very successful sourdough starter, which she spoke very kindly to.
Oh yeah, every day I'd be like, "I love you. You're doing great.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
so proud of you."
I make bread all the time. I'm not a sourdough bread maker, but I make bread. But you have to
Just be nice to it.
Yes.
And I would crack up. Like one day I was standing there and I was like, "I love you, honey." And Brandon goes, "I love you too." And I was like, "Do I tell him I'm talking to the bread?" I'm like, "I also love you, but I was talking to the bread."
Yes.
Because you
very
need
important.
to.
Yes.
And I think too, but you have these more positive habits, like kind of going back to some of the nonverbal communication. People have a perception of you when you walk in a room based on things you've done in the past. So if I'm someone who complains all the time and you know you're having lunch with me, you're bracing yourself. You're like, she's going to complain. She's going to be this. She's going to be that. But if you know, like, I lift you up and you feel great when you're around me, you're going to be a little more excited to see me and think, oh, like I need this pick me up today. I need to hang out with this person. Like we all have people who we kind of envision in our minds of like who really lift you up when you're around them. And I think realizing, your behaviors in the past, like your patterns, people remember these things. Like it does stick with you.
Yeah. There's an opportunity for all of us to recognize, and there are 3 habits of effective communicators for anyone who is suffering from patterns, because you might be listening and say, I dump all of my stuff on someone else every single time. And I actually had that conversation with a colleague the other day, listening every time. Oh, we just moved and everything was wrong. Whoa, wait a minute. You just dumped everything on. It was the new year. Where are we? Let's take 5 steps back. But in my book, Design Your Mind to Be Kind, there's 3 habits of effective communicators. So if you are having a hard time with your complaining habits, you are not alone, because half of the world is doing it.
Yep.
The first habit is to fly above. So you fly above yourself metaphysically, and you look down and you start to listen to your language and your patterns. When are you using it? Are you using it with certain people? You wouldn't use it with your boss, but you use it with your best friend.
Yeah.
Use it with your mom, but you wouldn't use it with your new boyfriend. So once you start to fly above, then you learn to catch yourself. You're not going to catch yourself the first or the 5th time. So again, own your vulnerability. Be okay with the mess ups. Go back to that child with chocolate all over his face and be okay with that curiosity. Hey, I tried it. I might not have caught myself in the moment, but I caught myself thereafter. And then I was able to say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry about that. It's really hard to say I'm sorry. You might not even be able to do that yet. Well, that's a big hurdle. But you might say, you know what? Let me rephrase that. And then the third one is to use your words wisely and to speak your truth. And words carry energy and they carry power. And the more that we can learn how to fly above, catch ourselves, and then use our words differently to better ourselves, that's how we become who we are meant to be.
Yeah.
How do you think relationships change when we start doing more of that?
We come together and we feel more connected. There's a bond that comes with, let's say, a relationship, a loving relationship, a partnership, a marriage. Would it be okay if how would you feel if rather than you did this or you did? Pointing and blaming are such ferocious patterns and behaviors, and they actually put up that wall, and that's when the ego goes in to protect itself. But if you start to get into that curiosity, that connection comes from, again, bring in that breath, bring in the open shoulders, bring in the breath work. Because if you're, if you're a slammer, door slammer, a desk slammer, all of that speaks energy and tone. So when we are connected as relationships and marriages and partnerships, there's more love. There's a huge amount of trust. I'm not going to be fearful in telling my partner my obstacles or my challenges or my deepest secrets and desires. The vulnerability becomes present, and there's more intimacy. There's in a loving relationship, and even in a family relationship, being more comfortable with saying I love you. Being more comfortable with sharing your dreams and your goals. I have a magic triangle in Heaven on 11 and Little Book of Love, and it talks about the triangle, and the foundation must be there, because both of the sides of the triangle are going to lean, and they're going to be topsy-turvy, because I'm going to have a good day, you're going to have a good day. Yeah. It's going to go up and down. But if you build that foundation based on connection, vulnerability, trust, using your words more wisely, asking questions rather than demanding or forcing or creating conditions. Even though the sides fall down, it'll never break. And that's important.
Yeah, I think that's so good. And, putting yourself in the other person's position and thinking, would I want to be spoken to like that? Would I want someone who's annoyed at me running in the room and slamming things and having this, larger than life energy? No, like no one is going to respond to that. And then that other person, like you said, is going to match that energy and they're going to mirror it. And then it kind of goes back and forth. So just being able to stop and like take a deep breath and like put your shoulders down, like you can really de-escalate a situation really quickly with that.
Yeah, and going back to the reward center in the brain, the smile. If you're rewarding your brain with a smile, and again, physical touch, you might not be okay at work, but in a loving relationship at home, studies have shown that if you gently put your hand on someone else's hand or on their shoulder, it increases the oxytocin, the feel-good hormone, and it allows two people to relax and come together because that oxytocin, the dopamine hit is, you know what? It's all okay.
I love that. For someone who is, repeatedly finds themselves in situations where they're with maybe like a friend or a family member, and the energy within that connection is, maybe that person's trying to make a big change in their life. Maybe they're trying to become better communicators, more in control with the energy that they're putting out. How would you suggest they break the pattern and comfortability of, how things normally go in that setting?
Boundaries. It's really being okay with boundaries, and being able to communicate that is probably the hardest truth, because someone who is actively going through something and maybe actively changing, going to see a therapist or seeing a coach or listening to Wayne Dyer or Tony Robbins or Robin Sharma, whoever their guru is, they're going through it. So there's defensiveness, there's ego, there's yeah buts, there's closed shoulders, there's folded arms. And if you're the other person with them and you know that they're going through it, go back to that curiosity and Socratic thinking. What are the great questions that you can ask them? How would you like me to show up for you? It's going to be hard for me to be around you while we're doing this. Would it be okay if I took a little bit more time back? Would you be understanding if? Yeah. And that brings you to the level of engagement and connection, and it allows them to understand where you are, bring in that piece of empathy. I can understand your feelings. And then you resonate with that person, and the energy starts to come together where the person doesn't feel bad, but they understand that you're creating that I don't really like the word boundary anymore. Like, it's just been so way back when I started using it in 2014 or maybe even earlier, 2012, it was so healthy.
Yeah.
But I think that it's been so overused, and the way that I like to describe it to people, I often use a lot of metaphors, as you could tell. Instead of a boundary being like a hand held up, think of it more like a white picket fence with flowers. Because we can all be gentler with each other, and we certainly forget that because life is moving very, very quickly. The device is dinging. Our lives, our time is so valuable. Who are we spending it with? How are we spending it? And when we're spending it with someone that's going through it, how much more empathetic can we be? Because it might make them feel better, but it's going to 100% make us feel better that we allowed them to have that space and got curious with them.
Yeah, the curiosity is so major, because if you go to most people and say, hey, I'm curious how I can support you right now, or, you mentioned that you're seeing a therapist, how is that going? What types of things are you learning? People will probably surprise you and be way more open than you realize when you give them the space to actually do it, and not just assume that you know the answer. Like, I'm curious about it. I want to hear your perspective of it. That goes such a long way with people.
Just think of whenever I go to the grocery store, or if I go to the valet, the first thing I do before I get out of the car and hand the gentleman my keys, how's your day going? How's your night going? First thing. When I get to the register, I always go to the people. I don't like the little beep beeps. And I say, how's your day going?
Do you find they're surprised sometimes?
Sometimes they're surprised, but the majority of times they're so engaging and they want to share with you because you might be the only person of their night or one of the sole people that ask them, how you doing? Even in an office setting. So many managers and employees don't understand each other because that empathy piece is missing, and it's all based on performance, hard skills. What are the results? But if we can see someone who is failing to perform or not meeting their goals, if you ask them the question how they're doing, and this is real because there are people that are very upset at work, and you can clearly see. I mean, that tension can be cut like a knife on a Teams message. You hop off and you ask that person how they're feeling, how you doing. Everyone has something going on behind the scenes, and when we focus on that human-centered design, on that human-centered behavior, we really can break through some of those boundaries with other people, but also with how our lifestyle. Our lifestyle can change, and we can be softer, and we can take our time and maximize it so much more when we are kind of floating. And it's not to say we're not going to get mad or pissed off or upset or angry, but when we start to learn how to manage our own emotions and feelings, we can start to understand how to help others, which is, again, know thyself. Know thyself first.
Yeah, I mean, the area where we live in, we're in New Jersey, Northeast, and it's very fast paced, and I think like everybody's just in this rat race, right? And just taking a second to like just slow down a little bit, slow your body down.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned, talking to people when you're checking out, which I'm totally going to start doing now. Yeah. But it's funny. So we went on vacation one time to Puerto Rico, and I'll never forget this. And there was a wait at the restaurant, and the woman who came out and was talking to us, she was actually the owner. And I was like, you're the owner? Like, don't you have other things to do? And then just like talk to me while I'm waiting. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay. She's like, what's your name? And I said, oh, just put it under Brandon. And I go to walk away because like my name's Cassie. People can't always spell it. I always just give his name. And so she grabs my hand and she goes, I asked you what your name was. Like she just wanted to talk to me. Yeah. And in my like Northeast mind, I'm like, this woman just wants to get back to what she was doing. She's just asking for a name to put, on our reservation so that she can call us. And in that moment, I was like embarrassed. So I stopped and I was like, oh, like, my name's Cassie. Like, it's really nice to meet you. And then she sat and talked to us for like 10 minutes. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was so quick to just like throw something out there, walk away, move on. Like, I was not open to receiving any sort of connection in that moment. And it's funny because that was years ago and it just stuck with me. And
sometimes it never leaves.
Yes. And it makes you want to slow down a little bit because I was like, wow, I was so like, oh, here it is. And like, I'm just going to like go on my merry way. And there she was just like, I'm just trying to talk to you. Like, what are you doing?
That brings up a great point where all of us are so used to talking.
Yeah.
You ask a question, I'm already responding before you're even done asking the question. What does that say? Are we truly listening?
Yeah.
Are we actively listening? There's a great active listener personality and Design Your Mind to Be Kind, where it talks about going to the sea and taking a shell and putting it up to your ear and just listening to the sounds of the ocean, which is a folklore, but you can actually hear that beautiful sound. And it allows us to remember who we are, and it allows us to be the active listener. And it also brings in that breath piece. There's 4 parts to breath: the inhale, the hold, which is actually a release. Every time we hold, we are able to release. The exhale, and then that transition. And what you learned was that she was asking you for your name, not his, and that's the actual transition that you brought with you today from then. So again, all it takes is a simple breath to recall, am I listening, or am I speaking over someone, or am I just speaking to hear myself speak? Am I busy being busy? All of these crazy things that in the company of a therapist or a coach or someone who's an evolved being can allow us to remember that all is well.
Yeah. I love how you mentioned before that kind of notion of like, maybe it's not that serious in the moment. Like, we're always thinking, okay, if I say the wrong thing, if I do the wrong thing this moment, like, it's just so embarrassing. This person's never, and it's like, it's not that serious. And the more that, you can kind of get in that mindset of like, it's all going to be okay, especially people who have social anxiety, because it's so hard for them because they're thinking, okay, like they're thinking all these things about me. They're remembering all these crazy things where the reality is like, they're not. And it's all good.
In Buddha's Four Noble Truths, he talks about pain, the path away from pain, the purpose of pain, and it's always going to be coming, but it's always going to be going away.
Yeah.
And in that moment, we can recognize that, once I let go of emotion, I'm left with reality. So if you even say that 5 times to yourself, when I let go of emotion, I'm left with reality. When I let go of emotion, I'm left with reality. Everything is nothing and nothing is everything. Mm-hmm. And why are we hanging on so tight? That's that positive detachment that we can start living with to become better, healthier, happier human beings, no matter what age, and keeping that childlike spirit alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's huge. And even like getting that reception from other people, like you had said, when people were pointing out to you, hey, like your nonverbal communication, you're looking unhappy, you're looking this way, you're looking that way. I think if you stopped like with that curiosity and you ask someone, hey, how do I come off when we're spending time together? Mm-hmm. Most people probably would be pretty honest and just tell you. And that can even be a starting point of, okay, this is, I asked my 3 closest people to me, and this is how they're all perceiving me. Mm-hmm. That can even be a good starting point.
Yeah. We're all carrying something at certain times. And there was one yoga class I was teaching, and this younger girl came in, and she was clearly upset. The tension was cut like a knife. She came in, and I was guiding the session, and you could just feel her energy in the room. And when I was touching her shoulders, and everyone felt it. You could I felt it as the teacher, and it shifts the entire energy of a room.
Yeah.
Afterwards, I felt it, and I allowed her, and I took her beside, and I said, how's it going? And she just took me and cried. Aww. And she just let it out. And all it takes is for someone to say, how are you doing? How are you really doing? Because she just needed someone to be there for her. And not everyone has the tools. I might have the tools today. I might not have them tomorrow. Yeah. You might, the same thing. But us as teachers, as educators of this type of work, we're the light workers. We're chosen with our purpose to go out and be that source. The books that I write, the source is writing them. They just keep coming out, and the people that read them take in what they're supposed to take, and hopefully they'll create that ripple effect. And even this podcast, for instance, anyone that is listening and watching, what are you taking in, and how can you use that to be a ripple effect in your own life, in being a healthier person?
Yeah.
I love that example, and the fact that you were just there with her, like holding space, right? Like sometimes you don't even need, no words need to be spoken, right? Just a presence, like a calming presence.
Yeah.
It's very powerful.
Yeah. It can help you be more empathetic, because I think we all have people in our lives who we know, if they're angry or they're upset, like they will take over the event. Like that energy will like just encompass the entire room. And I think that's a really great reminder of be empathetic with that person, and maybe use that as data of, okay, if this is happening today, maybe something is going on with this person. Yes. Maybe I can be there for them in some way, instead of just getting mad and being like, okay, well, here we go. And then you're kind of giving that energy back even when you don't want to. So I love that you took the perspective of like, hey, what's going on here? And that's so clearly what she needed.
There's a French philosopher, I can't pronounce her name, but her body of work talks about how pure attention is love. Attention is love. And again, even for a child, so many parents these days are super busy. They're on social media. I go to a restaurant and I see couples at a table, and both of them are on their phones. Parents are on their phones. They use it for 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes. Do we really have 5 more minutes, or can we create attention and use attention as love, as CEOs, as VPs, as managers. Middle managers have so much on their shoulders right now. They have the pressure for upper management, they have their own pressure to perform, and they have the teams that are sometimes fighting like cats and dogs underneath because, again, they were promoted because they know how to do their jobs well, but not how to manage people. So if we learn that attention is love, every email we write becomes more present. The words that we use, the tone that we use, going back to Morabian's theory, 7% is words. 38% and 55% are your tone and your body language. How are we showing up? Dr. Emoto, either good crystals or dark crystals. All of this work is showing us that energy matters. Are we looking from the lower chakras, which are worrying about what everyone else thinks, or are we coming from the heart up and looking inward and becoming more evolved human beings?
Yeah. And I have to say, you're one of the nicest emailers I've ever emailed with. Like, when you were emailing me, I was like, I'm so excited to meet her because no one is ever that nice through email. So clearly it shows. And I'm like, again, I'm like, oh, I gotta start looking over my emails. We did recently change. Instead of writing best in our signature, I started writing warmly in my signature. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to warm it up a little bit. But I'm like, you are so nice through email.
Thank you. I really do embody my work, and a lot of people have said that. They'll read the books and then they get to meet me and they feel like the books are me reading to them when they get to meet me. So that's a really nice gesture, and I appreciate you saying that. I'm so glad that I touched you in that way.
Yes.
And you can then carry that as well.
Because sometimes I find it hard to communicate how I'm feeling through email. Like, I might be super excited, I might be super open to something, but I'm just going to kind of be like, okay, sounds great, thanks. Because I'm like, I don't really know how to word it otherwise. But I feel like I felt that when you were emailing me. I was like, she's really excited for this. This is awesome. And now I'm even more excited for this.
It's the power of energy. Energy is translated through words, and especially through emails. So text messages too. Context gets so lost. Everything is staccato right now, short and sweet. I don't even understand what the abbreviations are from the younger generation. I have to Google it.
We have to regularly yell at my dad because he'll just text
He's
back.
the worst.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And he's the sweetest person ever, like the most loving person ever. And I'm like, if you don't start putting emojis after you say K, my anxiety can't handle it. I'm going to lose it. And he's like, how about you just know I'm never mad? And I'm like, no, that's not going to work. And so, he has been so much better with it, but sometimes he'll just respond like, okay. And I'm like, is that it? Question mark. And then he'll be like, smiley face, smiley face, smiley face. Here you go.
But you're acting out that kindness innovation. You're recognizing that there's a word there that might be taken both ways. Yeah. And you're taking that extra step. And I think that a lot of people don't take that extra step. It's like following your intuition. We just came out of the new year. Everyone's talking about New Year's resolutions. Follow your intuition. It's in there. That third eye is speaking to you. Your inner power is speaking to you. It's great to listen to it, but are you taking action on it? And how much more can we slow down? In Silent Integrity, there's in the Heart Chakra chapter, there's a slow your speed. And it talks about when you're driving in Italy and you see all the sunflowers and you're in your little Fiat and the sunflowers are facing you and facing the sun. And if you're going 75 miles an hour, everything is inexplicable. You can't see it. You can't see the light in the center of the flower. You can't see the deer's eyes. You can't see the colors. You don't remember them. But if you go 25 miles an hour, the view is expansive. And again, you could take that with words and through text messages and just with caring with other people.
Yeah, just taking that second and like you've talked about, really connecting with someone. It's like even going back to your dad, I'm like, well, one day you are going to be mad at me and then I'm not going to pick up on it. I'm not going to know because to me it's all going to be the same thing. So but it's funny because even in that little scenario, like it has brought us closer because we can joke with him about it and we can bring it up and we can be like, hey, this is what we need, like in our communication. And then we give it back to you, or sometimes we will jokingly just be like K just to like mess with him and he'll be like, really?
But it doesn't work because so it's like, and that's a generational component too. Like, he's older and he didn't grow up with texting, right?
Yeah.
So those rules,
He's like, I'm just sending a
those
message.
social rules aren't really like he
They
never
don't
learned
apply.
them, or they don't
Yeah.
apply, right?
Yeah.
And
He's
you
like,
know,
I'm just getting a point across.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And we have that today. Like, you know, everybody's on their phones. Everybody's on AI. Everybody's, you know, using those tools. So, you know, it's interesting.
Yeah. There's like using it, but still finding the way to have your authentic voice within it as well. Because if every single person texted the same way, you're not going to get a view into that person at all. Like, you're not going to know anything about them based on just messaging with them the way you would if you're talking to someone. I mean, I don't have the same conversation with any two people. So I feel like with texting, it should be the same. But yeah, sometimes it doesn't always translate.
No, not everybody can text well. Not everyone is I consider myself an empathetic communicator. I always text back, but not everybody does. And sometimes people have kids. Sometimes people are in back-to-back meetings. So again, empathetically, my parents just learned how to text. They're 84 and 86 now, and they just learned how to text. And when my mom first started texting me, I was so proud of her. She was 84 years old, just texting, because I always wanted her to text. But again, you think about millennials and Gen Z and the alphas coming up, they've grown up like this.
Yeah.
So going back to that eye contact and the body language, they might not be as comfortable with that, and that's okay too, because we can't expect that generation to want to have the eye contact. They're going to have an obstacle with it, but how can we be kind to them? How can we work with them in how they grew up, just like you were talking about working with your dad, the way he grew up, and not with these digital devices. And again, the way in Simple Pleasures, I talk about AI, augmented reality, but really it's awakened intelligence. So if you think about the AI as super fast, digitally smart, brain waves to the max, coming back to that human-centered, awakened intelligence, instead of going fast, how much slower can we go, especially in that digital world? Yeah. And maybe just start using nature as a connection to the other side, the spirit, the guidance inside of you that says, if you look at a tree, if you touch a tree, it's scientifically proven that it has the power to reconnect you with yourself. Go barefoot, walking, grounding, that's scientifically proven to give yourself a lot more presence. So again, looking at the sky, going near water, studies have shown if you live by water, you live a calmer, healthier, happier lifestyle. So as we go into that AI age, can we look at it as awakened intelligence as well, and using Mother Nature as a slow down tool for when we feel like we are going too fast or looking at the phone too much.
Yeah, and that takes so much intention to know, okay, I need to get outside. I need the sunshine on my face. I need to be by the water. But once you realize how powerful it is, then you can incorporate it so much more. You can do it in a preventative way. You know, once a day, I'm going to get my face in the sun. Because to some people, you know, they don't even leave the house, especially if they're working remotely. And those little changes can just be really, really powerful.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. This has been an amazing conversation.
Oh, so happy.
Should we jump into our segment?
Let's do it.
Okay. So we do a segment every podcast that is called Am I the Problem? Okay. It's really called something else on Reddit, but we call it Am I the Problem because we don't curse. Okay. So I'm going to read you the situation, and then you can kind of give us your thoughts on it.
Okay.
Okay. Am I the problem? Am I the problem because I, 26-year-old female, can't read my boyfriend, 31-year-old male's body language 100% of the time? Here's the situation. My boyfriend thinks that in a healthy relationship, he shouldn't have to communicate things verbally, but that I should pick up everything via body language. Today, the issue is that I came home early from work to work on schoolwork. My master's courses are on Monday and Tuesday, a little earlier than usual, so it cut kind of close to his counseling appointment, which he's doing distance from the apartment. In the past, he's only indicated he wanted that hour to himself, so I didn't think it was a big deal, especially since I waited until his appointment was done until I even left the office. Now he's upset and not talking to me because I only come home on Mondays to eavesdrop on his appointment. That's not the case. My class just happens to be on Mondays. I literally don't even ask him about his appointments aside from how was it. I literally never pry because it's not my business and I respect that. He told me that I should have realized all these past Mondays that he didn't like it, even though he seemed in high spirits and fine with me coming home. I don't know. Am I wrong to expect him to tell me outright that he wants more time after his appointment? I don't know why it's such a big deal to say things to me rather than expecting me to puzzle it out. But this isn't the only thing he's gotten upset at me because I don't pick up on his nonverbal signals.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Few things. We talked about the magic triangle, which is in Little Book of Love and Heaven on 11. But Little Book of Love is actually for couples. And it's very poetic. It's very soft and lyrical. And I suggest that couples read it together in bed or with a glass of scotch or a glass of tea by the pool. And it talks about standards and expectations. So the two big words that I took out of that the first word was expectations. My boyfriend expects me to know. And we all know that we can't expect our lover to understand what's in our head. We have to communicate it kindly, directly, respectfully, thoughtfully. So expectations and standards is designed in this book for couples to recognize when you're in expectation mode. So expectations are based on outside circumstances, which often always let us down. So if I'm expecting you to think a certain way or to do a certain thing, I'm pretty much letting myself down because I'm focusing on the expectation. It's based on something that's externally outside of my control. So if you're an expector, turn it into a standard. And it sounds hard, but it's actually really easy. So if I'm in this gentleman's place and I say, I expect you to do something, maybe he turns that into a standard to say, oh, okay, my standard is I expected her to not know to come home on Mondays when I'm in therapy because I feel insecure about it, and she's listening. I can turn that into a standard to say, my standard is I need to have space. I need to have time. And when she comes home because she doesn't have her master's class that day, she's in the house. So that's when we start using our communication with curiosity, Socratic thinking, using those questions. Would it be okay if you took an hour to go to the store or took an hour to yourself or to go see your mom or to take an hour outside of the house so that I can have the house to myself during this time because I do feel a little uncomfortable? It's going to take a lot of guts for him to say that. Would it be, and she could also do the same thing and recognize that when she's asking, is it my fault? Am I supposed to know? There's no supposed to. And there was another word with should. She used the word should. Should I have known? Take the word should out of your vocabulary. Take the word fault out of your vocabulary. Those are words that are consequential for relationships because there are no shoulds. There are no faults. Everything is our responsibility. And when we're in a relationship, again, going back to that triangle, which is in this book, the foundation is there, which is that respect, self-respect, collaborative respect, active listening, asking questions. And both of those sides actually become vows. So when you get married, and even if you're in a relationship and you don't get married, each one of us comes into a relationship with vows. This is who I want to be right now. These are the things that I'd like to do. These are the things that I'd like to do. How can we hold each other accountable for that? So recognizing that expectations turned into standards, which is in our control, and we can always turn the volume up or down, allows us to all be responsible and accountable in relationship, using our words wisely, building that foundation first, because if it's not there, and it sounds like it's not, it's based on shoulds and expectations and living in someone's mind thinking that they could read their mind. That's when both of the channels will fall and nothing good happens there.
I mean, the only way for a partner to know what the standard is for it to be communicated, right? Otherwise, how are they going to know?
And I love how you took this scenario and you said, let's apply it to the bigger issue here. Or like, what's going on in this household? How can we make sure this doesn't happen in the future? Not just with this particular situation, but just in general when these things come up and we're kind of missing the mark with each other.
One habit there would be, I expected you to take the garbage out and you didn't take the garbage out. Slam the door, get upset. I expected you to do this. I expected you to know that I had my hair appointment. Yeah. We don't really know these things. And again, women are from Mars and men are from Venus, or flip it that, and women are from Venus and men are from Mars. We are from different planets.
Yes.
We are on different wavelengths, and the more that we can connect with each other, and even if you're in a woman to woman or a man to man relationship, none of that matters. What matters is you take all of the context out and you start to live from that heart chakra. The front is for giving, the back is for receiving. And the more that we start opening, and even with the breathwork symphony, hold, release, and then holding again. We're holding on and then we're letting go. We're learning about positive detachment. Yeah. And positive detachment allows us to take the claws from the ego clasp that we have, and we're releasing it. And that was when the expectation turns into standards, and we can start living more accountably and more responsibly as lovers and as human beings.
So what's the verdict? Is she the problem?
She is. There's no problem. There is a solution.
I
right?
love this.
Not going into fault. There's no good. The solution here is to talk it out. And if you have problems talking, I'm just going to suggest, I do a lot of couples coaching.
Wait, I just love that. Like, I asked who's the problem, and you just like won't even acknowledge the problem.
Yeah,
you're like,
exists.
here's the solution.
I love that. I love
if we start, I'm such a language coach that if we start using the word problem, it's the same thing as fall. Take that out of your
the blame
vocabulary.
game.
We're all responsible.
Yeah.
So come together and sit at the table. And if there's a lot of tension, because there could be a lot of tension in a household, whether you're newly together, married for years, there's things that have happened and you're trying to work through it. Someone's dragging the other person's feet through the mud because they did something or said something. All of that is included, right? And it might be hard to come together. Set a time, 7:00 on Saturday night, kids to bed. Sit at the table, put a candle, whoever holds the feather. You can even get naked. I mean, it sounds crazy, but the more vulnerable we become with each other, it's like that eye contact. The more that we strip away the layers of the force and the demand that we have on other people, and we recognize that we're all just humans trying to live in this social experiment. And if we can live more spiritually elevated, there is no blame, there is no fault, there is no problem. There's just an accountable solution. And it might take a little bit of time to take the edge off. But the truth is, solutions are always available and everything is figure-outable. And sometimes if we bring more of that childlike nature, is like, hold the feather. No, you hold the feather. The obstacle disappears on its own just from the laughter.
Yeah. It releases the tension. I saw this silly post on social media, and it was like, anytime my husband and I are disagreeing, we go nose to nose. So they stand there and they press noses. And like, she just had a couple videos, and she's like, and every time we do, we just start cracking up. And they're like, I can't even be mad at what I was mad about before, because now you're just sitting there laughing with your partner, and you probably didn't even realize how much you needed that.
Yeah, the ego wants you to remember, and then all of a sudden the authenticity is nose to nose. What was it?
Like, this is silly. Yeah. Oh,
Great.
this is
This was a great
good.
conversation. Thank you so much for coming in and chatting with us about this. It's an awesome topic. For anybody that wants to learn more about you, your books, your programs, how can they find you?
You can find me at thekindcommunicator.com, and I do a lot of writing on LinkedIn. I love sharing a lot of posts and articles on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram at The Kind Communicator. I post more on LinkedIn, but please come and share your stories with me. I'm always open and an ear to listen, a shoulder to lean on, and your words matter.
Yeah, this was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.